Someone said, I think it was Albert Einstein, said that the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. And so I think that that is good guidance and suggests that the existing models that we've got are not set up to produce a fundamentally different set of results. You know, think about energy. Most of the international oil companies are rushing to develop the oil sands in Canada, which are a more carbon-intensive source of energy than conventional carbon-based fuels. Why do they do that? Well, they do that because they need to replenish their reserves. The markets expect that, and any company that chooses not to go after that resource would be absolutely punished in the marketplace by shareholders. And so I think this shows that the models that we've got with that fail to measure the fullness of the impacts that various economic activities have aren't going to deliver us the kinds of results that we want. Now, the good news here is in a more global economy, we actually see lots of different kinds of structures that we may be able to draw from. The model that's developed in the US and Europe and largely in Japan of large publicly traded companies operating under the kinds of rules that have developed over the last several decades may not deliver what we need, but there's also state capitalism out there, there are privately held firms, there are cooperatives, there are all sorts of different models, and I think and I hope that we'll be in a period of experimentation so that some of these new kinds of models will come to the fore and deliver some different kinds of results. I think the other thing to keep in mind is that if we are, as I think we are and think we should be, living in a period of fundamental transformation, I don't think we should rely on the incumbents to deliver the outcomes that we want and need. I think that disruptive companies that are developing new technologies and new business models are much likelier to be the companies that we're talking about at the Ethos conference in 2060, 2050, and probably even 2020, because so much is changing. The fundamentals that are driving the world's economy are very, very different. With biotechnology, with, I think, some really fundamental questions about privacy that are going to affect every single company, with the kinds of social networks that develop. I just think so much is in play right now that we're likely to see different kinds of organizations. I can't even imagine how it's going to go. And I think this will create, from the bottom up, different kinds of market rules. I think we're seeing some of that happening already. You know, Facebook put some important questions about privacy to a vote of its users. I found that to be fascinating. There are a lot of privacy advocates who think that the result was still not very good, but I can't think of another time when a large and growing company turned over a very material question to its customers to provide input on through direct democracy. We'll likely see more of this as power, information, and influence continues to decentralize. So we do need new business models. We will have disruptors who will play a bigger role and reshape the what of the economy as well as the how and the why of the economy.
If we believe the scientific data, we have to increase our carbon productivity by 6 times over its historic rate to survive, just to survive. And that is a change that is far greater or equivalent to the original Industrial Revolution. So one has to get kind of the frame of the change. And what that means, building particularly from Aaron's points, is that I don't know how many companies are represented in the room, but hardly any of them will survive. So most of the companies you work for today, I'm sorry, this may come as a shock, will not be around in a while because they won't cope with that change. And that's okay. I mean, you may need to find a new job, something to think about. But it's okay. It doesn't matter if companies come and go, frankly. Yeah, who cares? They're just companies. Sorry. The challenge then, on the one hand, are identifying and supporting the disruptors, so preventing them getting squeezed out because there isn't enough capital or for other reasons. So promoting the disruptors that were being described. And then coming back to Odette's point, preventing the incumbent companies from preventing change. Yeah, and let me just speak to that for 1 minute. As we all know now, the US came to Copenhagen with a terrible deal. They had very little to offer. And the question is why? Actually, quite objectively, the best possible thing for the US population would have been a strong carbon price, which would have driven technology innovation in the US and given the US a chance to enter this century in a leadership role. So why didn't they do what was in their economic interests? And the answer, in a cartoon nutshell, is 2,800 lobbyists sitting in Washington, D.C. that mobilized against any deal of any substance. That the business community has to save us, but actually the business community, or at least part of it, is busy destroying us. It's not destroying us because it's digging up oil, it's destroying us because it's preventing the sorts of policy changes that are needed to reward the disruptors we need to transform our economies. Yeah, and so I think the move of Ethos towards a greater focus on policy innovation, not only business innovation, is an extraordinarily important move, both in Brazil and internationally, because without immense policy innovation, the potential of business innovation will be prevented.